Hello everybody. Welcome to Friday night Yin Restorative. A few things you're going to need. You might have already gathered them, but in case you haven't, we're going to need a blanket that you can roll up into a sausage, a belt or some kind of strap, some kind of brick to put under bolster. Now I know that not everyone has all the equipment, but if you've got some kind of equivalent, it'd be good to have a big cushion, some kind of straps, some kind of lift but under the cushion, and a blanket. And the first pose, as you gather all your stuff and come into your practice, is to lie on your back with a cushion or a bolster underneath your knees. Let me just get my timer. We're going to stay here for about 5 minutes. To rest and to center. And you might also, I didn't mention this, but you might also want something to cover your eyes, maybe an eye pillow or a pair of socks, whatever you need to cut out the light maybe for some of the time tonight. And taking these first few moments to settle into your body. And as you come to settle, simply noticing what's present for you right now. If, like me, you've been sat at a computer trying to sort out all the logistics for next term's classes, online and face-to-face, you might be feeling a bit frazzled. I hope you're not, though. Or you might have been very physically active today. Maybe you had a stressful week. Maybe none of those things and you feel quite chilled already. Really feel through the back of your body in contact with the bolster or cushion beneath your knees. The mat or the floor beneath your back and your head. And allow your attention to slip into the stream of a natural breath. And as you lie here at the beginning of your practice, breathing, sensing, are you able to accept exactly what is right now without a desire to change anything at all? Hyper vigilant, or simply vigilant, alert to what might change through the practice. And you might like to set yourself an intention, particular quality or focus for your practice. As you spend another minute simply softening and grounding and centering here. And in this practice tonight, we're continuing really with the same theme as last week, which is to really nourish our adrenal glands and to also nourish our vagus nerve. We're looking to improve what's known as the vagal tone. This is one of the main cranial nerves which comes down and taps into some of our main respiratory, digestive organs. It's part of our parasympathetic nervous system. The health of which we need to be intuitive, relaxed, creative. And the opposite to striving, searching, wanting to arrive at a particular end or goal. Most of you probably know that the adrenal glands are these very small pea-like or bean-like glands just above and behind the kidneys. And they produce adrenaline, but also cortisol. And when they're overstrained, when they're overproducing, we can feel quite hyper. Imagine what it's like to have an adrenaline rush, and what we're doing here is kind of rebalancing that tendency in our lives. And we also overproduce, we overactivate the adrenal glands when we drink a lot of caffeine, alcohol, and all these stimulants that we all love. At least I do. And we can get exhausted, we can get depleted. And so tonight is about restoring that balance. So if you'd like to gently bring your knees into your chest, give yourself a little hug. Roll over to one side. And I've just realised now, as I'm about to take you into the next pose, that I forgot to mention that you need a wall. So I don't know if you have a wall. I kind of have a pseudo wall here. But we're going to take two poses against the wall. Two different type of dangling poses. Now, if you have very low or high blood pressure, I'd rather you just came and sat on the floor and draped yourself over your legs. But if you're okay to take your head beneath your heart, we're going to start with our heels about, let's say, a foot, sort of 20-30 centimeters away from the wall. You take your sitting bones to the wall. You can bend your knees. And you're going to simply allow the torso to pour out of the pelvis. As you support your sitting bones against the wall. And these forward folds like this and others we're going to do are in the practice as a way to soothe our adrenal glands. Forward folds are very introverted, settling poses. Can you just dangle and breathe here? Letting go of any tension in the shoulders and the neck. Don't worry if you sway and you move around a bit. And breathe. And keep dropping. Keep letting go. Breathe. And it would be normal at the beginning of a practice to become more aware of the tension in the body, the tension in the mind, the tiredness. That's okay. Just let all of that be there. And allow yourself to drop into all sensation, to linger in the deliciousness of the breath. And then taking one full inhalation and a long exhalation here. And then bending a little bit more in your knees. You're going to come up super slow because you've been upside down for over 2 minutes. Roll yourself up bone by bone. Allowing your head to come up last. And then take a moment to feel the rebound. Eyes closed or open. So another invitation in this practice tonight is to, at first, really feel and go into the heart of the richness of sensation in any particular part of the body. But then with time, see if it's possible to expand out almost beyond the body, in fact, beyond the body into our energy body. So to have a more expansive sense of being, one in which we are led to even question the boundaries of our individual selves. So I know for some people that's an interesting project and other people might wonder what I'm banging on about, and that's all right. So we're going to come to our second and last dangle against the wall. And for this one, you're going to turn around to face the wall. Now this takes a little bit of time to get comfortable, because basically you're going to take a place at the back of the body, kind of around where your shoulder blades meet, but it might be a little bit higher up to just beneath the neck. And you're going to press that against the wall. Your head will be against the wall too. Knees are bent, and you dangle like this, pressing that one of the vertebrae just beneath the neck, coming down towards where the shoulder blades meet. And that once you've got here, you can begin to trust the wall as you just push the back of the body into it and drape. And then breathe. Breathe. And keep pushing through that vertebrae into the wall, releasing in the shoulders and the neck. And keep here for another minute, breathing and letting go. Just dangling and trusting the wall.
And then taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And you might need to step away from the wall now. Again, to very slowly, bone by bone, unfurl your spine so that your shoulders and your head then come up last. And take a moment to absorb the residue. Noticing the quality of your breath. Specific sensations in the body. But then if it's of interest to you, a sense of where your body ends and where the space around you begins. So much of the yoga practice is about this inquiry. Where does your body end and where does the space around you begin? Lovely. Now, it's a very strange thing to do, to hang against a wall like that. The first time I did it, I did really wonder what I was doing, but I hope you agree with me that it has quite an interesting effect. We're going to come back down to the mat to take a more familiar pose, butterfly. So for your butterfly, you might want to sit up on something. You might want bricks underneath your thighs if you're hypermobile in the hips. We come into a longer hold now. We're going to come for 5 minutes. So make sure there's a distance of about 2 hand spans from your groin to your heels. Soles of your feet together. So you've got this tilt of the pelvis, and then breathe in to lengthen. And breathe out, pour yourself forwards. So we're still forward folding and soothing our adrenal glands. So those of us who are anxious or have a tendency to get stressed may recognize what it means to have unhealthy vagal tone, bad digestion, bad sleep, shallow breath, hypertension. This practice may be for you. And it may or may not be of surprise to you to know that there are a lot of yoga teachers out there who are not free from these things. Just have to keep practicing. See if you can really drop into the stream of your breath now. Noting if there's anywhere in the body where you could soften a little, let go a little, drop another layer. And breathe. Can you go a little deeper? Really completely absorbed in the minutiae of sensation. wherever it speaks to you from your body. And breathe it. And as you come into your final minute, you might like to choose to drop a little bit deeper, or maybe it's your time to just withdraw, to pull out a little bit if you're feeling too intense in any sensations. Drop back off from them. And then taking 3 deeper breaths, and maybe on the exhalation, opening your mouth and pouring out any residual tension. 2 more full breaths. And then we come up super slow again, bone by bone. Keep your chin into your chest. If you like, you could use your middle and forefinger placed in between the eyebrows to very softly realign your head on top of your spine. And bring your knees together. Take your hands behind you and take a moment here. Slide the feet away and have a little bit of a lift up of the chest, a little bit of a counter pose. Maybe you feel a flood of sensation as you come into this pose, maybe not. And from here, we come to lying on our backs. You're going to need your belt handy or your strap handy. I'm going to lie completely flat, taking a moment to settle the body. And then all you're going to do for a 2-minute hold is draw the right knee in towards you. So what I really love about this sequence, and a version of this I was taught at a retreat by Esther Eckhart, one of my most lovely teachers. What I love about it is, although the backward and the forward bending specifically target the adrenal glands and the kidneys in the ways that I've suggested, we're also going to free up some tension in the lower body, in the hips, in the psoas muscle that connects the thigh bone through the pelvis right up to the spine, where we just hold a lot of tension, just daily wear and tear. And as you draw your knee in towards you, if there's any little movement here that you want to make, that's absolutely fine. Breathe. And really soften in the upper body. Maybe there's tension in the throat, the roof of the mouth. The eyes, it can get so tired.
and tense. And then taking a full inhalation and a long exhalation here. I'd like you to bend up your left knee and place the foot on the floor. And then grab your belt. And take it into the instep of the foot, not the ball of the foot. We did this last Friday. And what I'd like is your upper arms to be settling on the floor, so you're not reaching. But the leg is straight, so if you need to reach it away from the body to find a straight leg, then do. And then as you settle into sensation in the right leg, maybe decide if you want to slide the left leg away. And we stay for 2 minutes here. If you want to play around a little bit with the ankle and the foot, just to enrich sensation in the leg, go ahead, it's your practice. But then at some point you might come to settle into the breath. What do you feel here? What thought patterns, what emotions are arising in the field of your awareness? Can you observe without attachment? As you breathe and feel. Very simple practice. Breathe. If your leg is straight, you could, for the final 30 seconds, draw it a little bit further towards the body if you want to, just to feel a bit more sensation. But there's no need. And then taking a full inhalation. And as you exhale, releasing the belt, bending your knee in towards you. Another breath in. And then slide the right leg away, feeling the difference between the two sides of the body now, noticing the quality of your breath. And then we take those two very simple poses to the other side. So if you'd like to draw your left knee in, you might push away a little bit through the right heel, you might move around a little bit in the left hip. And then settle into your own quietness here. Those of you who like the dark might be covering your eyes. So we cut out the stimulation. When you cut out external stimulation, what do you find inside? What depths, what richness in this inner landscape? Breathe.
Breathe. And then take a full inhalation and a long exhalation. And bend up your right knee to place the foot on the floor. Taking the belt around the instep of the left foot and finding where you need to be for 2 minutes here. If it's easy for you to straighten the leg and have it perpendicular or closer towards you, then slide the right leg away. But if you're finding yourself all buckled up, then bend up the right knee. And notice any parasitic reactions in the jaw, around the throat and the shoulders. Sometimes we tense up because we're just so used to protecting ourselves, but can we surrender and open, trust? Trust and release and breathe. And soften. Letting go of any grip. The last few years I found it absolutely astonishing how simply learning how to relax and let go brings with it a whole, I don't know, like a whole different perspective on everything around. You might all take that for granted, but it's been very, it's been quite remarkable. And it's like a whole other level of reality is revealed through the simple act of relaxing and letting go, surrendering all the need to achieve and to be something in particular. And to just open to the pleasure of being alive. I've held you here. I got so carried away. I've held you here for much longer than I was supposed to. Take a full breath in, everybody. Sorry about that. I sometimes get lost in the practice. And then breathe out. Bring your knee in towards you. Take your breath in. And then slide the foot away. And take a moment to simply feel the body here. Maybe noticing a difference in the lower body now. And then for the next pose, you're going to need, you don't need to come up, but you are going to need to grab your blanket. And we're going to, so we've done this a few times over the last weeks. We're going to place a rolled up blanket across kind of the bottom of the ribs. So where the shoulder blades meet and a little bit beneath that. So you don't really want too high a sausage, too high a roll. You choose what's right for you. This is not about coming into a massive back bend. It's a restorative pose. Some of you may find that as you settle onto your blanket, and we're going to stay for about 4 or 5 minutes, you might find that you need to place something under your head because you don't want your chin to be jutting up and pushing back like that. So you might find that it's quite nice to place a block or a cushion here. So it's really nice for me right now. I can settle the back of my heart space, the back of my ribs,
down into the blanket. But there's no strain on my neck. And I can release the arms down like this. And you have a choice as you settle in to have your legs extended. Maybe you like to take your knees out, soles of your feet together. Or you might like your knees bent. I'm just going to lie with my legs extended. And then use your exhalations to release out through the back of the ribs, the back of the heart space, softening. And it's okay for the mind to wander. But as you fall deeper into your practice, you may simply become more aware, more attuned to what your mind is doing. You can't tell it to stop, but you can watch it with a distant interest. Like watching clouds floating past you in a clear sky. Can you let go a little bit more? Can you soften a little bit more? And allow your body to breathe itself, so you stop being the breather. Notice how the body breathes itself. This miracle that we take for granted in the breath. Let go. And as I said earlier in the class, as you become absorbed in the physicality of each pose, what you feel like in the body, in particular places, are you then able at some point to ease your attention outwards so you feel the whole of the skin boundary of your body? And then you ask that question, where does your skin boundary end? And where does the space around you begin? If that kind of question freaks you out a little, if you feel like you're floating out too far into space, then draw your attention back to the felt physical sensation in the body and the breath. I don't want to lose you in the stratosphere, not tonight. And take a full breath in
And a long breath out. We're not going to disturb ourselves too much. We're just going to move the blanket further down the body. So if you could just roll over a moment. You're going to bring the blanket into the small of your back. So just encouraging a little more curvature in the lumbar spine. So it's kind of above the sacrum and actually nestling into the first vertebrae of the spine or the bottom vertebrae of the spine. And we'll stay for the same amount of time. And I've needed for this pose to remove the support from behind my head. It's easier just to have my head on the mat. And you bend your knees up if you need to, otherwise simply releasing the legs. And we stay here. Noticing what it feels like to have this little bit of support in the curvature of the lower spine. How do you feel in the belly, the front of the pelvis? Breathe. Can you soften in the belly and around the solar plexus? What do you notice there? And can you allow your body to breathe itself? Featherlight. No strain. So good to give our nervous system a rest. Well, last week I talked about a reboot, and incidentally I put that class up on YouTube this morning. And I'll be putting more classes up tomorrow before I go away. I'm taking a few more breaths here before we come out of this pose. I'm taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And if you'd like to bend your knees up and place the soles of your feet on the floor. And then press in a little bit so that you can just lift yourself up enough to slide your blanket away. And we're going to come to Just feel the body extended completely. Maybe noticing a subtly different relationship with the floor beneath you, the way in which your body now makes contact. And then from here, if you'd like to bring the soles of your feet together and take your hands onto your lower belly, we'll take a few minutes in Supta Baddha Konasana, a little bit of hip opening here. And you can have your feet as close in towards the groin or as far away as feels right for you. And let's use this pose to become a little bit more curious about the breath, because we can feel the rise and the fall of our belly underneath our hands. Can you first of all notice the stream of your breath through the nose, down the back of your throat, into your chest, and then this rise in the abdomen as you breathe in. And then as you breathe out, the abdomen drops back towards the spine. The diaphragm floats up under the ribs and the exhalation happens. And the next time you breathe in, maybe be a little bit more interested in the quality of your diaphragm. Does it feel tight? Are you able to soften it around the edges? And notice how it pushes down onto the inner contents of your abdomen. Can you absorb yourself completely in this breathing? And as you lie a little bit longer in Supta Baddha Konasana, are you aware of sensations in the inner thighs, across the front of the pelvis, the groin? Can you soften in the lower body? And breathe. Again, noticing the specificities of physical sensation. And then gradually sliding your attention out to the skin boundary of the whole body. And asking yourself that question, where does my skin boundary end? And where does the space around me begin? And where's the difference? And taking a full breath in and a long breath out. You might like to use your hands to gently bring your knees together. But as your knees touch, walk your feet out towards the sides of the mat. So a little bit of an internal rotation in the hips. And we'll stay here just for a minute or so. Resting the hips, the legs, the pelvis. Now, when I place my knees together like this, I've come into a completely different set of sensations in my sacrum. The back of the pelvis is solid bone. I don't know if you feel the same. It's very grounding. And then when you're ready, if you'd like to just bring your knees in towards you, have a little bit of a hug, a little bit of a roll around. We're going to roll over and come into a bigger back bend now, more of a squeeze for the adrenal glands. And the pose is a pose I've done most weeks with you because I just love coming back to it, even though I know it's not everybody's favourite. And the pose is Supta Virasana, so reclining hero's pose. And I've put a bolster here with a brick under the end of it, but you could equally, if you want a more intense experience, you could take the bolster away. So first of all, let me show you the pose with the bolster. You could, for this sit pose, sit on your heels. I'm going to give you two options. You could sit on your heels and then recline back. So it's a lot going on in the front of the pelvis, the thighs. Quite an intense compression in the lumbar spine. Or, if you prefer, you could sit in between your feet, but I want you to be able to feel your sitting bones on something. So if they're not on the floor, you need to place a blanket or a brick underneath your sitting bones, and then you come back. So we're going to stay for about 5 minutes here. So that's all fine. You come into that pose if you want, or you can try coming down flat. I'm putting the timer on now. And coming down flat is quite a strong yin pose. There's nothing restorative about this. The bolster helps you rest more and you have much less intense sensation. It's not that one is better than the other, they have different effects. Doing the yin version might be less soothing for your nervous system because you might be fighting with some very intense sensation. So you choose where you want to be. And there should be no pain in the knees at all, please. Please come out of the pose. And the alternative would be Sphinx, lying on your belly with your forearms out in front of you. Take the pressure off the quadriceps. And can you settle into this pose wherever you've chosen to be? And breathe. Little squeeze, a little rinse of our adrenal glands, freshening them up. They work too hard for us most of the time. Especially if we live at high alert. Hackles raised, up against the wall. I think that's a Kate Tempest line, but she says it better. Love Kate Tempest, by the way. She came to Lancaster Library and was phenomenal. And wherever you are in this pose, whether you're plunging into the richness of intense sensation or whether you're resting deeply, just open to the evening, can you allow yourself to be present, to feel everything? Maybe even explore the skin boundary and beyond. So we don't escape the body in yoga, we use the body, we use sensation. We use our physicality as a portal or a pointer into a more expansive sense of what it might be to mean to be alive. So we go through sensation, we go through all the senses into maybe a sense of spaciousness and stillness from which all of these objects of sensation and thought, of energy arises. Arise, the ground of our being. Taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And then whether you're on a bolster or flat on the floor, you're going to need to engage your abdominal muscles a little bit. You can press into your elbows, your forearms, and come very slowly, slowly up. Taking a moment to sit with a straight spine. So I'm coming to sit on my heels here, but if you want to take your legs out in front of you, please do. So we don't immediately come forwards, we allow the spine to settle. It's quite an intense back bend. And then if your legs aren't out in front of you, taking them out in front of you. Maybe take your hands behind you for a moment. If you were in the full pose, you might want to just circle into your ankles a little bit. Wonderful. And then we come into a very simple caterpillar pose. So we come back to soothing the adrenals, a very soothing forward fold. So again, you have a choice. You might like to take a bolster under your knees and make this super, super easy. That's what I'm going to do. Take the restorative version. You might like to sit up on something, especially if you're slumping. Give your pelvis a bit of a head start. Or you're absolutely welcome to have no props at all and just have straight legs. So first of all, find a little bit of length in the spine, breathe in, and then pull forwards. And some of you might like a brick to put your head on, or a cushion to put your head on, so you feel supported. Such a lovely pose to come into after the saddle pose, the Supta Vrasana. You really feel into the back body now, your kidneys, And wish your kidneys and your adrenal glands a long and healthy, happy life. Wish them well, as they do so much for us. And breathe and soften completely. And you let go. Breathe. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Maybe come back to any intention you set for your practice as a particular focus if you would like to. A little reminder of why we're here, why you're here. Follow your exhalations right to their natural end and a little bit beyond. Maybe your exhalations are a little bit longer than your inhalations. And then taking a full breath in and a long breath out. Again, we come up super slow, allowing the shoulders and the head to come last, bone by bone. Maybe your forefinger and middle finger in between your eyebrows. To lightly place your skull on the tip of your spine. And take a moment to feel the body here. And then if you have a bolster under your knees, taking that away, we'll very briefly come into a counter pose here. If you take your hands behind you and place your feet underneath your knees and lift up briefly, lift the hips up, press into the hands and the feet, and take a full breath in and a long breath out. Take another breath in and then gently lower down again. I'm going to come into just a little hip opening sequence here, which just brings whatever kind of sequence we're in. A little hip opening sequence can allow for quite a deep release and release of tension in the body. If you'd like to join me, these will be short holds, And we're going to start on all fours and bring the, the right foot forwards into a baby dragon, the left knee behind. Now, some of you may want to cushion the back knee. You could place a blanket or a cushion under there. And we'll stay for 2 minutes here. Making sure that your front knee is over the foot, not beyond your foot. My battery's about to go on my phone. So the knee's not coming back like that is what I mean. It's okay if it comes a little bit forwards beyond the ankle. It may be that some of you need your hands elevated on bricks or books. And then drop into the hips. Drop right down. You can feel quite uncomfortable, quite dirty. Kind of messy feeling sometimes as we release tension from the hips. It's like dark car oil when the oil needs changing is what it reminds me of, but that's just me. Breathe. And just got another 30 seconds here. See if you can soften in the shoulders, the back of the heart. Where do you feel this pose? Where are you holding on? And taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And just as we transition, draw the front knee back a little bit. Place the right hand inside the right foot. And we're going to come straight into gecko. Now, gecko is where, if you can, you bring your forearms down on the floor. You might want to elevate them onto a brick or something like that. And don't worry at all if the right knee and the foot just fall out a little bit. You can see my right foot's coming out at a little bit of an angle. And breathe into this really quite intense hip opener. Also opening the front of the left hip and quadricep. See if you can relax in the upper body. Breathe. Can you melt into your hips for the final minute here in this gecko pose? I know it's intense, I really do. Can you drop through and out the other side of the stickiness, the dirty car oil? I'm only using that metaphor because I checked our oil today. I mean the car oil. Coming to a few final deep breaths here in gecko. One more full inhalation and a long exhalation. Then very, very gently coming up onto your hands, and we'll come for a minute or so, or maybe a couple of minutes, straightening the right leg. So I'm pulling the right hip back to straighten the leg. And I would push the heel forwards a bit here, so your left hip is right over the left knee. And this is, again, this is intense. You can really feel the hamstrings. Are you able to stay and drop into this?
And breathe. The challenge is to stay with and go into the heart of sensation rather than tighten up with fear and try and run away from it. Can you soften your edges around it and breathe into it? And notice what effect this has on your nervous system. Breathe. Noticing as you're here where there are still little knots of tension and softening into those as well. 30 more seconds here. Can you let go a little bit more into this pose?
And then taking a full breath in and a long breath out. And from here we will gently come forwards. Before we take those poses to the other side, you bring yourself into downward dog, which just should feel quite delicious. Take a few breaths, taking any movements you want to take. You might want to sigh. You might feel very different. You probably will feel different down the right leg, the right hip from the left. But we're going to now come to the left-hand side. So take a full breath in. Breathe out, drop your knees. And place your left foot forwards. You might want to cushion the right knee. And we come into the baby dragon. Hands around the front foot, elevated if you need to. And it's going to feel so different on each side. I find it totally different on the left-hand side. Breathe. And soften into this pose. Lovely to see you all tonight. Really lovely group of people here. Thanks so much for coming to this last Friday night class for a while. Next one will be the, what will it be, 7, 8, 9? 11th of September. Can I just take this opportunity, a little bit of a distraction, I know, but can I just take this opportunity to say that I had a little bit of a problem with the book when website, so not for virtual classes, but if anyone wants to come into the river room for classes, you have to book a place. And I'm noticing some people are booking into the 2nd or 3rd week of the 6 weeks, but you need to book the 1st week to grab the whole block, even if you personally can't come to the first class. I need to find another way of arranging all of that information, but basically just book in for the first class and then you're there for the whole block. Thank you for all of you who've been doing that already. And I hope you've all received all the information. Take one more full inhalation here and an exhalation. And easing back a little to take the left hand inside the left foot. You might slide the right knee back a little. And you come down onto your forearms, either elevated or not. And you can allow the left knee, the foot to hang out to the side a bit. As you come into your gecko. Breathe. Where are you holding on? Where can you let go a little bit more? And coming into the final 30 seconds here, if you're wondering, because I know it's intense. Stay with it for a few more breaths. And then taking one full inhalation and a long exhalation. Very, very slowly straightening your arms and bringing yourself back into that half monkey pose where you straighten the left leg, push the foot away so that your right hip is over the knee. And we stay here for 2 minutes, coming down over the front leg. And I know this will be different for all of us. If you're someone who does a lot of physical exercise, a lot of cycling, a lot of running, this will be a challenge, I know. Paul, I'm thinking of you. But I might be wrong, of course. Might be you, Julie. Breathe. Just another minute here. And then taking a full inhalation and a long exhalation. Gently easing yourself forwards and bringing yourself into a downward dog for 5 breaths. Moving or staying still, whatever you need to do. Can you feel the aliveness in the whole body? Take a full breath in and a long breath out. And then take another full breath in and drop your knees. And we'll just take a very brief pose of the child here. So you could have your knees together, you could have them apart. As you just bring your hands down underneath your head or not, just for a few breaths here. Allowing the back of your heart to soften. Your forehead to soften. The roof of your mouth to soften. One more full breath in here. And a long breath out. And very briefly, bringing yourself up. And we're going to take a little bit of an unexpected, cheeky ankle stretch. So if you'd like to take your hands behind you. And begin to lift your knees. If you're able to, if you feel that your ankles are going to welcome a little bit of a stretch. So I'm coming back on my forearms, lifting my knees. We won't stay for too long. Only come back as far as you are able or feel. It's not that it's comfortable, but you don't want any acute pain. But what I'm feeling right now, and I want you to feel maybe, is that the front of my ankles and the top of my feet feel as if they haven't been seen for a long time. So they're being introduced to sensation, even if it's not entirely comfortable. Just a few more breaths. Can you feel the heat in the front of your feet and the ankles? One more breath in. And then very gently coming back. Now we could have stayed longer, but I thought I'd be kind. We're going to come onto our backs again for one more pose before Shavasana. We're going to come onto our backs to take a happy baby pose. So bringing your knees in towards you and pulling them apart. And maybe you can reach your feet. Maybe you take your hands somewhere else on the legs. But you do want the soles of your feet facing the ceiling. And then you apply a little bit of pressure as your knees come down towards your armpits. Your lower back could either be stuck to the floor. It's also fine tonight just to lift, to peel it off. Just want you to feel very comfortable here. And then I'll be quiet so you can drop into your own heart of sensation. And breathe and feel inwardly and outwardly. Or as James Reeves, one of my other teachers, says, it's one thing to space out, but you can also space in. See what that feels like. Breathe. You may notice yourself deepening into the pose a little with time. We'll stay a couple more minutes. Can you soften in the face? And then taking a full breath in and a long breath out, bringing your knees and your legs together.
Bring a little bit of a hug into a tight little ball to draw everything into one place. You can roll around a little bit if you like. And then do make sure you're warm enough as you come down into a few minutes Shavasana. So I'm going to expect you to carry on resting for longer, but I will turn on the videos and unmute you if anyone's there who wants to say hi. Totally understand if you don't want to. But I feel that I would like to say hi to anyone who's there on this last Friday night. Now allow yourself to simply unravel into sensation. Hopefully feeling deeply rested, deeply refreshed. Allow yourself to feel everything. Don't miss a thing. If you're going to stay a while longer, which I would recommend, you might want to turn off your Zoom or your audio. If you're ready to come out, you might like to take a few slightly deeper breaths and introduce some tiny movements into your fingers and toes, your wrists and ankles, maybe with a little bit of a stretch, but not disrupting your stillness too much. You might like to roll over to one side, have a breath or two in a fetal position until you're ready to come up and join me in a cross-legged position. Hands together in front of the heart space. And take a moment to notice how you're feeling. Quality of your breath. The groundedness of your being. And take a full breath in towards the heart space. And as you breathe out, bang your head into your chest. Breathing and lifting your head gently and opening your eyes when you're ready. Thank you very, very much. So goodbye to those of you who are leaving.